This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. If you're going through some challenges right now, maybe not having the best day, whatever it might be, I want you to listen carefully, because this is inspiration coming from a gentleman who has been through some challenges, was down to his last $8, and was able to turn that into a place where people gather, a place where they enjoy their time together. He supports himself, he supports others, and created two wonderful locations. Well, it started in Florida, and then it moved to California, and I'm talking about Mystic Water Kava Bars and Wellness Center, Kava being a special type of tea. And we're going to dig back into his journey, which I find fascinating. It's just, there's every turn here leads to something, and that's kind of what the point is, seeing the signs. Why do certain things happen in your life, and how do they add to other things? Avi Weber is back with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Good to be back.
Love your story, and it just continues. There's it's maybe serendipity. I don't know, but it backs up my my belief, my understanding that things do happen for a reason, and we're here to learn certain things to get us to the next point, or to help and inspire others. And the help and inspire others, I don't think I've ever heard a story where there's been so much impact, where people just happen to be walking down the street and shared something with you, whether it was an idea, a service, they just wanted to help. And that was a pinnacle, a pinnacle situation in moving your life forward and creating these Kava bars. Where do you want to pick up from where we left off?
Well, I think that the Kundalini Yoga is where we left off. After I started doing the practice for myself, after I opened the bars, then I opened the one for my sister in San Diego, I decided that I was going to start teaching the practice that I was doing. And so I did, different customers coming in, friends, if they were interested, if they were willing to sit down for 40 days, because it is a 40-day practice. 40 days, 90 days, 120 days, or 1,000, depending on what you want out of that practice. 40 days, it locks this new thing inside of you. It ends a habit or starts a habit. 90 days solidifies that. 120 days, you cannot do the practice for a year, 2 years, and come back and do the practice for 2 weeks, and you would just reignite the energy of, as though you had just done the 120-day practice. 1,000 days, you master that thing and kind of reincarnate with that stuff already. But so I started sharing it, and then there was a guy, Mark, one of my customers, friends, and he used to plant trees for people. And so he started doing the practice. 2 weeks into the practice, he couldn't leave the nursery with trees to plant at somebody else's property without selling those trees to somebody else and dropping them at their property to go back to the nursery to get the trees to just keep. He was just selling out. Like, the second he would leave the nursery, somebody's buying what he was going to deliver. And it really showed, it was, it's happening. It happened for me. I shared it with somebody else, and I watched it happen with them. And it's those little things that solidify. Like, if you believe in something, it might not be true. You don't really know for sure. Belief, the way it was explained to me, belief is doubt. If you believe in something, you should find out whether or not it's true. And the experiences show you whether or not it's true. Can you duplicate what transpired? And how many times can you do that? And that's what happened. I duplicated the experience. I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. And this knowing this, it gives you this confidence to step out into the world and know that you're going to be okay.
I want
you
to go
know.
back to the yoga, Avi, for a sec. Now, this was suggested by your sister.
Mhm.
It's a commitment.
Oh
And
yeah.
and some may look at it and say, all right, yeah, yoga's a thing, but this is to another level. Um, could be very woo-woo.
Mhm.
Why did you believe and make that commitment? And if I remember correctly, when you start this particular practice of yoga, if you stop at some point, you got to go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and you had to at least once.
Right. Oh
Um,
yeah. Still today.
why why did you have belief in it?
Again, I don't know if I didn't necessarily have a belief in it in the beginning,
Why
you
did you
know.
why did you continue? Why didn't you just throw it? I'm done with that. I committed to it. I got halfway. I'm not doing it anymore.
Love, again, it goes back to Holland, like it was it was a like a showing of who I was, what I was capable of, like if again, like if Holland wasn't really in my world at that time, like I probably wouldn't have done that practice,
Now,
you
this
know.
is the person you're referring to is.
A girlfriend that I dated years
Yep,
ago,
you
you know.
mentioned her. Yeah.
Right.
Um, were you were you proving it to her by doing this? Um, and
I think I was trying to prove myself to her,
okay.
and so I just did it, like, and it happened. That was it. There was no, I didn't know what to, you know, somebody in the yoga world mentioned to me once that you don't do your practice for a specific outcome, right? I didn't do the Kundalini yoga practice for prosperity and abundance and opening my heart center for a particular outcome. I
Mhm.
just did it, right? If you're doing your practice for a particular outcome, you're a manipulator,
Mm.
right? If you do the practice for prosperity and abundance and to just allow the prosperity and abundance to show up, it shows up. But if you're doing it because you want a raise or you want a new car or you want to, then you're manipulating the energy field and maybe it doesn't necessarily work for you in that way. Like your
Wow.
Kundalini yoga practice, like if you do it for more than 11 minutes and more than 11 days, the universe will take things from you because you're greedy. It's a very powerful stuff. But then, why, if you don't do it by midnight, do you start over from day one, right? Why 40 days, 920, 1,000 days is 3 years. The same exact practice every day for 3 years, and that's willpower, discipline, and commitment, which I used to think were the three ugliest words in the English vocabulary.
Mm.
But then again, reading another book, again, I don't remember the names of the book, but this the only thing that I took from that book was there's a wall between your third chakra and your fourth chakra. And that wall is willpower, discipline, and commitment. And until you master those three things for yourself, you cannot move into your heart center, and like you'd never put diesel fuel in your Ferrari. You might eat a Dorito, but the Dorito's not good for you. So you don't really even love yourself. You think you love the world. You don't even love you, right? You can only love as much as you love yourself. And
Mm.
so that's the willpower, the discipline, and the commitment by committing, but yoga is a science. You put your arms over your head, satnam, satnam, that hurts 10 minutes keeping your arms above your head. It's painful after,
But it's a
and it's your
commitment. But it's a
nerves are getting,
commitment. It's part of the commitment.
it's a commitment. Right. But what happens when your body feels pain? You're releasing endorphins, right? But it's also done on the pranayama. It's a very specific breath that you're doing, right? And I teach breath work, holotropic breathing, and I lay you on the floor and I'll breathe you for 35, 45 minutes and you'll launch like you just took acid, smoke DMT, like, but it's not oxygen. You're charging your system with the life force that's all around you. I want to call it God, chi, whatever. But this energy all around you is what you're charging your system with every time you breathe in. And
I want to, if I may, I don't
mhm,
want to lose the moment, but those three words, commitment, willpower, and
discipline.
discipline. As we're speaking about this, they're so connected. They're not just random words because in order to have commitment, you need willpower and you need discipline. And if you look at the other words and you move them around, they all fit
Right.
together. And if you don't have willpower, you're not going to fully commit to something. I mean, really commit to something.
Right. Hmm.
It's pretty amazing. And I see this reason I'm bringing this up. I'm in a men's group. I think I shared with you. I've been doing it for
Hmm.
about a year. We have weekly commitments. We make them on ourselves. What are your commitments for the week? And then somebody holds you accountable within the group and you rotate, the pairings that hold you. It's a phone call every day.
Hmm.
How'd you do on your commitments? Did you work out 4 times for an hour? You didn't? Why not? And a lot of it comes down to discipline and willpower. And if I think you're so spot on. If you can't adhere to those three, you haven't fully connected to yourself. You might be living an okay life,
Hmm.
but it's probably not at the level where you want to be because you're not there yet.
Right. Or you haven't even reached you could be living large right now, but maybe you haven't tapped into your true potential.
Right.
If your potential has you living this quality of life now, imagine the quality of life you would have if you tapped into that, because you're already fluctuating at a high vibration,
Mm.
or at least tapped into, because abundance and prosperity is a frequency. You could have good people that are riding that frequency and bad people that are riding that frequency. It's the same frequency. You just have to learn how to tap into that frequency. How do you vibrate at prosperity and abundance? You know,
Well,
but
you talking about energy and vibration.
Mhm.
Avi, at what point did you finally realize what this thing called energy is? And it's probably going to go back quite a ways, but that moment where it's like, oh wait, this stuff is real.
Oh no, that was actually within the last, I would say maybe 2.5, 3 years ago is when I really learned this stuff is for real.
Yeah, honestly, same for me.
Yeah,
Same time frame.
so my friend Ileana had mentioned earlier, she had a heart transplant and she wasn't doing very well. And I got introduced to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I've gone to 4 of his retreats. I wanted to know if this guy was for real. And 3 days into my first event, the pain and everything that was in my back from when I broke it cliff diving just went away. Like it was just gone.
Hmm.
And while I was doing that is when Ileana started to go downhill. So instead of me going to Joe Dispenza for myself, I started going and exploring that stuff to help her. And like there was a time she was in North Carolina, she was at Duke Hospital. I was in Huntington Beach, and she was in the hospital because in the morning she had to go in for a bowel obstruction. And I get the nurse to hook up her phone and everything like that so that Ileana and I could do one of Joe Dispenza's meditations together. And halfway into the meditation, I felt like I was going to get sick, you know, nauseous, like I was going to throw up. So I got up to go to the bathroom. I didn't throw up or anything, I came back into the meditation but when I was in the meditation, it was like I walked into like this sewer, this feeling that I had. It was very like a perverse, very gross feeling. And when the meditation was over, Ileana just started throwing up violently. And when she went in the morning for her surgery, there was no bowel obstruction, right? And my friend Steph, yeah, it was just gone, right? Poof, maybe she threw it up. But the way my friend Stephanie, the energy healer that I've been using, explains it is instead of me remote viewing in to see what was going on, I actually went in there, right? And another time she's in the hospital, her arm is swollen like 3 times the size that it was supposed to be. It was her left arm. And the nurse could see me trying to, squeeze her hands, get her maybe, it's a blood flow thing. And the nurse told me she just has a blood clot in her hand. They're not really concerned about it. If it was in her legs, it would be an issue. But so I'm holding Ileana's left hand and I have my right hand on her shoulder, and we're doing a meditation. I mean, I don't know how coherent she was in some of these moments, right? But I start to feel this pulsing moving up and down from my left hand to my right hand, moving through her arm. I'm feeling this pulsing going up and down her arm, up and down her arm. And then again, this voice comes into my head and it's like, Avi, you receive energy from the left and you give energy from the right. Maybe she doesn't trust all of this healing energy that's coming to her because of all of the different abuses and the stuff that she went through her whole life, right? She didn't have a very easy life. Most beautiful person I know, always happy. But when you know her story, you're like, how are you this person, you know? But so I was like, okay, so she doesn't trust the energy. So in my mind, in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm going to help you assimilate this energy, you know? And so we do the meditation, and the very next day I come back 24 hours later. It was exactly 24 hours later. Her arm was back to normal, and it was like, wow, my son had an issue. I did a meditation just to send him healing energy, and I have I fell out of my chair. I hit the floor so hard, my shoulder hurt for 2 weeks, but I didn't know I was not in my chair. I was someplace else, right? And I saw, as I did the research, trying to figure out what I saw what his issue was before he told me what the doctor said his issue was. And you can't deny that stuff over time. There's no denying it. It is what it is. And then Ileana passed away. She passed away in my living room under my care. And at that same time, this girl that I was dating, madly in love with, I found out she was engaged to marry somebody else. The landlord to the Huntington Beach Kava bar was trying to screw me out of my lease. I scored a ridiculous 10-year lease. And then because COVID happened, everybody raised rents and everything by like 20, 30%. But I had locked in for this 10-year lease. And she was trying to sell the commercial property and nobody was buying the property because you can't raise my rent. So all of this stuff is happening, right? My friend Ileana is in my home. I'm trying to help her heal, the ex-girlfriend, the landlord, but I had to stay in my heart space for Ileana. That was it. What I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Feel your heart beating in your chest. That is the only time you're in the present moment. This moment we're sharing is not the present moment. It's a fleeting moment in time. But when you can really feel your heart beating in your chest, everything stops, right? This sense of peace just washes over you.
To your
And that's
point,
the
this
beginning.
many believe this moment was manifested and it already happened.
Mm-hmm.
It already happened.
Right, but it happened up here, and it comes down, right? Like we're the slowest movement of energy, right? Right, and that's why it's solid, right? But levels above us, stuff is transpiring, right? But it's coming down, and now you filter it through, right? Can you turn your horrible experience into a bouquet of flowers, right? You're the filter, right? Are you going
Mm.
to leave more crap behind you because of the crap you experienced, or are you going to leave? The more we leave flowers, the less people coming after us. They're not going to like all of this crap we're experiencing. It's our ancestors. It's the shit they did, right? So are we going to keep leaving crap, or are we going to find a way to transmute the fertilizer into flowers so that the people coming after us discover flowers, not nonsense from yesterday?
How did you
And
stay positive? Now you've one of your dear friends passed. You walked that whole journey with her. You supported her. You learned a lot along the way. That wasn't why you did it. And now,
oh,
the ex-girlfriend situation where somebody was deceptive. Now you had the landlord, a little deception there. We had a deal, and now she's trying to change the deal. Many people go into a victim mentality or become addicted to suffering. How did you not?
so I had to stay in that space of the heart, that heart space, not feelings and emotions, like literally feeling your heart beating in your chest for Ileana's situation. She did not know anything that was going on outside of her stuff. Like I couldn't bring that into that environment, right? Dark night of the soul. This was a dark night of my soul, this experience. But I didn't do it for me. I did it for her. I was in this space for her. But after everything happened, when the dust settled, Ileana is gone. And I'm looking back now on that moment. I have no anger and hatred towards the ex-girlfriend. I have no anger towards the landlord. There is none of that. Like I can't look back at that moment to make myself angry and upset today. And when I realized that, it was like a holy crap, this stuff really does work, right? But I know like I would not have gone to my heart center when I found out the girl I was in love with was married, right? I would not have, like, I wouldn't have gone to that space, landlord screw. I would have gotten angry and upset, right? No question. I wouldn't have used those tools for myself. I would have crashed and burned, right?
Yeah, totally get it.
But but because I used them because my friend needed them, it blanketed me from all of the other stuff. And that's what proved it. Holy crap, this stuff is for real. It really does work. And once you know something, right, it imprints into you. It becomes a part of you. Like Buddha, practice, 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 do. Then you don't have to do anything because you're just it. It assimilates into you. But I know if I'm to be honest with it, I would not have done that stuff for myself. I would have crashed and burned, and Mystic Water probably wouldn't be here.
We're just about out of time. Wow.
Right.
um, in 15 seconds, what do you say to somebody listening or watching that is dealing with some challenges and, maybe somebody's done them wrong and you want to get angry, but it's not going to do you any good. And you know that deep down inside, you know
Right.
that. What's your advice to somebody at that moment?
So if you can, so listening is feeling, right? So like imagine you're like looking for your heartbeat in a dark space, right? You're in the darkness, right? You're looking with your ears, right? So you're listening for that sound to locate that thing. So if you can listen for your heartbeat, and start to feel your heart beat. You'll feel it, this little pulsing, right? Even if it feels like it's this imaginary thing, you'll feel it. There'll be this pulsing sensation, right? You cannot generate a lack emotion when you're feeling your heart beating in your chest.
Wow.
So you can be in a situation that like this is straight nonsense, right? You don't have to agree with what's going on, right? Like, but if you can stay and feeling that heart beating in your chest while you're going through that, you don't get angry, you don't get mad, right? And so you can't go back to that time to be angry. And it just brings this freedom because we're addicted to those feelings. You're addicted to being angry. You're addicted to being sad, to being depressed, right? That's your mood, your temperament, your personality. And so you have to sever the addiction to those things. But if the more times you have where you didn't get mad or upset, like you can't draw on that experience to generate those chemicals.
It was
And you just get
a song that came out in the early 90s by the band Roxette, and it's called Listen to Your Heart. Now, yeah, there's different reason why you might be listening to your heart, but that song's playing in my head. Listen to your heart, because it'll pilot you. Wow. Thank you for today.
Yeah, there's another song. Yaima, I think, is the artist. Yaima, I think her name is. And the song is called The Magician. And that song 100% encompasses the beginning to all of when your heart and your mind become one is when the magic happens.
I assure you, before the day's up, even before 5 o'clock hits here, I'll be listening to that song. Not even kidding.
Right.
And that's that's my commitment for sure. Thank you for everything that you bring. And it's more than just very special tea and a wonderful space for people two of them in California. But your insight and what you've learned along the way, Avi, truly appreciate it. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. See you soon.
We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.